Modern agriculture is war. Defoliants, herbicides, insecticides, fertilizers, fungicides, and pesticides. At the end of World War II, the military-industrial complex needed new markets for its surplus chemicals. The agricultural-industrial complex was born. We've taken the chemicals, so adept at annihilating the enemy, and turned them against nature and ourselves. Toxic oceans, toxic water, toxic air, and toxic food are the result. From the chemical deserts of factory farms to our inner lives, our world, as a place of nature, is unrecognizable.
Here we've got one's a wee bit older. Oh, this is, oh, look at that, wow.
He has a fascination for worms.
Well, each one of those has got a name, you know.
He knows more about soil than almost anyone on this planet. His favorite animal is the cow.
This is cow dung. It's been in here for about, probably 4 months, 5 months now.
He loves to stir cow dung in a bucket. A gardener from New Zealand and a bucket of cow dung. Could this simple recipe be a way to save the world? Peter Proctor is the father of modern biodynamics, an arcane form of agriculture that was begun early last century by the anthroposophist Rudolf Steiner.
What we need are some cups.
For 6 decades, Peter's been farming, building gardens, and advising farmers all over the world. In the last 15 years, he has visited India 25 times.
Well, what we're going to take with us? You know, I mean, the packing is the next thing, isn't it? What do you reckon?
Peter and his partner, Rachel Pomeroy, a botanist and astronomer, are now leaving their home permanently and moving to India.
I got a picture of how possible all this was. I mean, the size of the country just blew me away, and the numbers of people and the traffic and so on. It was just, but I could see underneath there was this connection to the land, and this was when I heard the goddess of prosperity lives in cow dung, and that on every cow resides 40 million gods. 40 million gods? Yes, every hair, sir. It represents a god.
For Peter Proctor, there are no half measures. He is almost 80. He has a glass eye and boundless energy. He is hard of hearing, but for him, the earth sings. Peter sees India as the completion of his life's work. He believes biodynamic agriculture may be the last chance this planet has. For millennia, organic farming was practiced in India without any marked decline in soil fertility. The Green Revolution, which began in the mid-60s, was supposed to alleviate world hunger.
The misguided idea was, if you fed the soil with chemicals, the idea was input, output. The more you put in, the more you get out. But what people didn't realize was that the chemical actually would kill the nature of the soil. It's created soil poverty. And this is what we have to repair right across the world.
Most of us are far removed from the fields where our food is grown. Separating us from food, our primary source of life, is a vast, globalized distribution system controlled by multinational corporations.
Monsanto is a company which has monopolized seed, almost have monopolized seed, and its only objective is that every farmer in the world, whosoever buys seed, buy from Monsanto.
In a rural landscape otherwise devoid of advertising, Monsanto's fluorescent green and orange signs are everywhere. Biotech seeds cost nearly 400% more than conventional seeds. Farmers often find their yield is 30% less.
Wait aside.
Seed dealers get huge commissions from suppliers.
Oh, 2,4-D. 2,4-D is a hormone, recognized hormone in weedicide. Old as the hills. Yeah.
Farmers are often forced to take the genetically modified seeds as part of a credit package.
Chemicals and pesticides.
A 2006 report found that 60% of Indian farmers using genetically modified seeds could not recover their investment, let alone feed their families. The fight against corporate control of our food is far-reaching. It is the fight for food sovereignty. When corporations dictate what farmers must grow, they are controlling what all of us eat. The outcome of the battle for agricultural control in India may dictate the future of the earth. Peter Proctor is a new type of hero. Rather than battling the problem, he simply lives the solution. Ignoring the machinations of the multinationals, Peter keeps his hands in the soil. After 15 years of travel in India, he has seen a network of biodynamic farms fan out across the country. He believes a revolution is happening, one farmer at a time. Sarvdaman Patel is one of those farmers. Sarvdaman completed his education in the United States, gaining a Master's of Agronomy at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
My first experience in organic farming, without thinking, I just did it. 2 acres of elephant yam. It was a very good success. So I tried it with bananas. It was a miserable failure. We lost money. So I gave up again. I said I can't do organic. I don't know anything about it. I left it. Went back to my chemical farming. What had really happened was the soil was becoming dead. It was just an anchor for the plants. It was not a living soil. The whole day I was there, Barnes and Nobles, it was a big store. I was looking at the agriculture section and suddenly my eyes went into the organic section. Sat down and read the books from morning till about from 10 till about 5 o'clock in the evening. And that's the real beginning of understanding what is organic farming.
It's probably the best biodynamic farm in the world. That's a big statement, and probably other farms just equally as good, but the ones I have never seen a farm better than this. I would say, completely, in all facets really. And we look at this wheat we're looking at the moment over here, it's just brilliant. It's standing up so straight and tall, just like a human being.
A biodynamic farm is totally self-sufficient, self-contained, and dedicated to producing good food for the benefit of mankind. So what makes a perfect farm?
India is one of the richest countries in the world, not because of the gold, not because of the diamonds, not because of the rubies, but because of the biomass. What we can grow on our soil. Because of the wonderful temperature, wonderful climate, the moisture, the warmth, the compost is being made from this biomass.
Sarvdaman provides a public service to his local town, collecting leaves that would normally be burnt, while he persuades the local council to become biodynamic. The transformation of dead material into life-giving compost is the cornerstone of biodynamics.
On top of this, they would be putting the cow dung and some water and some rock phosphate and some seaweed, and it becomes in situ, almost doing it as it goes.
Leaves, grass, animal manures, food, and garden scraps, practically anything natural can be composted. 25% of the garbage in our landfills and incinerators could have been composted.
See there, a small pile is left from the last one, which is kind of an inoculation for the new piles which are being built.
Fish, 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 Maulana, fish,
Compost is the only way to increase the humus content of soil. Without humus, soil is lifeless. The cow, venerated in India, is central to biodynamic farming. With its 4 stomachs, it is a unique animal of digestion. Cow dung forms the basis of many biodynamic preparations. The cow pat pit, known as CPP, is one way of processing cow dung. Detractors call it muck and magic, especially as the recipe contains mystical preparations.
So you're getting the processes, not actually quantities of, you're getting the processes of those essential elements that can work in a very natural way. Bringing the effect of the planets into your land. You certainly get very good crops which generally do not have trace element deficiencies. A lot of people just don't like touching dung. They think, ooh, horrible stuff. But actually, in fact, once you start using it, once you've used it, you know, you've moved the stuff and actually worked with it, it's got a lovely feeling, you know. And actually, it's very interesting that the Indian farmers know that it has the sterile qualities, that if you have a cut, they'll put fresh cow dung on the cut, and that actually sort of sterilises it, and you don't get any infections. Uno-san does point out that the only things that don't come from heaven, you might say, are phosphorus and potassium. All the other elements actually are there in the atmosphere, which can be brought into your soil through good farming techniques. It's actually mixing air into the cow dung. Actually, what we do in biodynamic agriculture, you are farming the soil, you're also farming the air. But if you have nothing, you know, if you have dead soil, nothing can happen.
The 8 preparations that arouse so much suspicion are very simple.
Dandelion preparation, which is to do with the silica.
They are mixes of herbs, like yarrow and chamomile, and minerals like silica and calcium, all connected with planetary forces.
Every time you do this, there's a vortex form. One vortex, 2 vortexes, 1 vortex, 2 vortexes.
When people first hear about biodynamics, they hear about cow horns, and they hear about cow horn dung, planting by the moon, and so on. They think it's odd. Well, the main preparation that's used in biodynamics is what we call cow horn dung.
It's exactly the same thing we do with our programs.
A cow's horn is filled with the dung from a lactating cow, and it's buried in the soil in the winter months from autumn through to the following spring. And it's there for up to 6 months. It actually changes its structure. It goes through a composting process, during which time it actually absorbs the energies that are in the earth, that the earth breathes in the wintertime. The earth is different in the winter than it is in the summer. And so there's that structure that's formed in that cow horn. And you knock it out, it smells beautifully sweet.
Here it comes. Here we go. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. There we are. Beautiful stuff.
I mean, most people think this is an organ of attack. They wouldn't guess that it's an organ of digestion. The cow, again, from Rudolf Steiner, he says the horn is to do with digestion, and that the vapours from the stomach go through here, through the sinuses, up into the stump with the holes, and then returns back through the stump, through the sinuses, back in the stomach, going up and down all the time. And these vapours of digestion improve the digestion of the cow. But the cow is all the time ruminating, chewing, and that digestion gas is going up and going back again, up and back. So this has a holding effect. So when we put the dung in there, you still have the digestion process going on. And so the digestion actually helps break down that cow dung, that fresh cow dung, into the material I showed you, that preparation that we sprinkle around.
Once matured, the cow horn compost is stirred into water for an hour, or mixed using a flow form. Stirring by hand or flow form creates a vortex, increasing the capacity of water to support life. At the moment the movement is reversed, chaos is created. Out of chaos, a new vortex is formed. The water is imbued with one of the basic principles of plant life: order arising out of chaos. The mixed preparations are then sprayed in homeopathic concentrations. Microorganisms in the soil are activated. Plants deepen their roots. Soil structure improves, and worms mysteriously get busy. The water is thoroughly permeated by the life force imbued in the biodynamic preparation. The whole mass of water has become dynamic. Every droplet of water now carries this life. Even the way preparations are sprayed matters. The spiral, from seed heads and shells to cyclones and galaxies, forms the core of nature. Biodynamics is as much concerned with the soil as with the plant itself. In biodynamics, the soil is everything.
My plowman, he's been working for me for the last 25 years. I asked him, how was the land when you started? He said it was quite hard, like a rock. I said, why? He said, because we were adding a lot of chemicals at that time. I said, how is it now? He said, in the last 6 years, we have put in compost and a lot of other things, doing green manure, and it's become like cotton. And even further, it's become like butter. It's become like butter. It's so smooth and so easy to cultivate. I asked him, how come there are so many birds? He said, there's such a big population of earthworms now. And as I cultivate, they come and eat the earthworms, they eat the insects and all that.
From the beginning of time, we've recognized the influence of heavenly bodies on plants, weather, and the tides. Using an astronomical planting and sowing calendar, biodynamics is a rediscovery of those ancient rhythms.
The small caterpillar, green caterpillar, is eating these pods. and it has gone down at the moment. And they'll come up in the morning. All night they'll be trying to eat it. In the morning the birds will come and eat it. This is what it does. And we can have the insects tomorrow, I think. Maybe I'll try to open it if I have. If we do some herbal sprays, we can control it to a large extent. But I feel that birds will do the job tomorrow morning. They'll do it for a couple of days and finish it off.
Natural farmers work with nature as a whole to understand that insect, plant, and soil are intimately connected. Healthy soil makes healthy plants, makes healthy people. Good biodynamic pest control includes companion planting, natural insecticides, liquid manures, and quartz preparation. The corporate model requires a farmer to grow food to meet market demands. But Sarvdaman follows the biodynamic model, feeding his family and workers first. Sarvdaman then sells or trades his surplus to his local community through a roadside store. Some surplus is sold in local towns, but this store is so successful that it takes almost all his produce.
Why don't we do it tomorrow?
His farm operates on a human scale, self-sustaining, ethical, and biologically diverse. Sarvdaman's farm represents India's localized economies. It is a blueprint for a future when fossil fuels are scarce, when the world's most valuable commodity will be the knowledge of how to farm and the wisdom of how to grow food that is more than just stuff to fill our stomachs. But even on this perfect farm, the reality of the corporate agenda that underpins chemical farming is a breath away. Whatever the politics, Peter is resolute in his commitment to be the change he wants to see.
You've got to get your hands dirty, you've got to get your feet tired, and work.
His dream is a world returned to a matrix of interlocking small farms, each supplying and caring for a widening circle of community.
And you have this wonderful food at the end of the chain. I mean, that's the amazing thing. Yeah.
On this journey, at the invitation of Anil Bokar, a government-employed technical officer in Maharashtra, Peter visits 10 farms a day. His schedule would be punishing for a man half his age. But Peter is unflagging in his enthusiasm and his commitment.
I worked in agriculture university, associated with those scientists, brought a green revolution with the invasion of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. As a matter of fact, the farmers got higher yields, but there was a deterioration in the ecology. Not only that, but the soil and the cost of production went very high, which led to the not satisfaction to the farmers. And they were away, they're fed up with the farming. And we happened to meet with many farmers, and we start off thinking other way. And the other way, that is organic farming.
Use this for banana.
Right.
This banana.
Okay, right.
Peter's legacy is spread across India. Wherever he goes, newly minted biodynamic farmers are eager for his knowledge and blessing.
I'll just sort of...
थोडंसं टाकायचं.
Just
याच्यातच. म्हणजे कल्चर आणखी वाढतं.
that helps the culture, you know.
हे अजून टाकून द्यायचंय.
When I first came here, people said, oh, this man's crazy. You don't believe what that man says, do you? It was the reports I get. But now that's changing, and we're having a lot of help now from the government.
Here we have formed the organic farmers group in each and every village, and we have federated them into a federation at the district level. So in this way, this organization setup is from the village level to the district level. And the farmers come here, sit there, and solve their own problems and share their own experiences.
His neighbour was growing chemically, This man was doing his horseback.
And farmers are now also knowing what are the benefits regarding the ecosystem balance and all that. So this has taken a lot of efforts, and now it is spreading very fast in this region.
We had three young men came up and said, "Excuse me, sir, we haven't met you, but we wanted to meet you. We are working in Maharashtra." And you know, sir, we have made, this year, our farmers made 10,000 biodynamic compost heaps. I said, "What? 10,000 biodynamic compost heaps?" They said, "Yes, sir."
In Maharashtra, there are over 1,000 officially supported organic and biodynamic training programs, with more than 4 million hectares under organic farming. Anil Bokar reports that typically farmers move from chemical farming to organic farming and then on to biodynamic agriculture.
The only thing I would do would be to try and somehow moisten the green. Very, very good. Oh, hang on, just I'd actually put another layer of dry on, then this one. Just look at the way the water spread from the wrist down on the hand. I mean, there's real love in that, you know. That's good. Yeah, very good. Oh, this is so nice to see this. So nice to see. Very nice. Oh. It was very slow beginning, very slow. And if it accelerates at this speed in the next 10 years, I would say, conservatively, almost the whole of India could be biodynamic.
The farmers, now they are reducing this input cost, and now our farmers, from chemical farming, they went to organic farming, and from organic farming, they are heading towards biodynamic agriculture.
When you tell people about it, and I tell you about it, you tell your friends, and they tell their friends, and they tell their friends, and it goes for miles. And this is quite exciting.
Thousands of farmers throughout India are turning to biodynamics. It is calculated there are more than 200,000 biodynamic compost heaps in India.
Yeah.
Viewed holistically, the Green Revolution was a failure. Chemical agriculture destroyed India's natural abundance, farming communities and soil. High-yielding plant varieties turned out to use far more water, growing significantly less crop per drop. Today, in much of India, the rivers have long since dried up, and the only water is hundreds of meters down.
Chemical, urea.
Urea.
Yeah.
Urea fertilizer.
Fertilizer. Yeah.
Oh, heavy doses.
Heavy doses.
Heavy doses giving them.
Heavy doses. Kills all the humus. Yeah.
But gradually that chemical started to erode the quality of the soil, the structure of the soil, and it overproduces the bacteria, and the bacteria needed bodily nourishment, so they started sort of tearing into the carbon, the organic carbon, the humus. So the humus actually gradually got less and less and less.
It's like shingle, really, so it's got no life in it at all. You see how it goes to dust, and you get dust storms? It smells chemical.
And that effect has happened all over India. The chemical has destroyed this 30, 40 years of wonderful, what took 5,000 years to build up. I mean, it's an absolute tragedy. But what isn't a tragedy is there is an answer.
The Sardar Patel farm covers 150 acres on the outskirts of the city of Ahmedabad in Gujarat. The farm grows around 30 different varieties of fruit, herbs, spices, and vegetables.
Well, if you're comparing biodynamic agriculture with conventional agriculture, with the biodynamic agriculture, you can guarantee that you will have a soil in the future. Conventional farming, you do probably get a higher crop yield, but it's cost you a heck of a lot more to actually grow that. And also, the end result is that eventually your soil will be so destroyed with the chemicals, you won't be able to have a farm, you won't be able to grow anything.
Wow, that's good.
To compare the sustainability of biodynamic with conventional agriculture, you need to examine such things as soil quality, crop performance, financial profitability, and environmental qualities. Farmers find soil quality is better on biodynamic farms. By adding compost, soil structure is improved. There's less compaction, more topsoil, and greater biological activity.
It's got a nice texture, and it's also got a very good humus forming. And the humus content you can tell by actually spreading it out like that, you see. And it's very smooth between your fingers, and you can actually smooth it like that. And it's got no smell of cow dung at all. And it's all ready to go, and it's just full of the right sort of bacteria, fungi.
With conventional farming, chemicals are used to nourish the soil, eventually destroying the biological activity that is the core of plant life and human health.
Now, the crop performance, of course, it's very spectacular with chemicals. I mean, you look at the crop, you see it's all green or it's all flowering, or it's, you know. But what you don't realise is that behind that you've got a weak plant.
In the biodynamic system, the soil is a balance of micronutrients and bacteria. Contrary to the mythology of chemical farming that says biodynamic agriculture results in lower yields, in reality, crop performance is greater. Plants are more disease resistant, and root development is markedly stronger. These factors contribute to consistently high yields and superior quality.
This is one thing that we've found with biodynamic agriculture. Where you have balanced soil, you don't have insect attack. I mean, just amazing, because the soil is balanced, these plants are balanced, the insects aren't interested. Just imagine not having to put on any insecticide, and there's money in the bank for the farmer.
She's traveling in the city. Yeah. A lot of people follow you. Oh, this is Sardapur farm. Organic, give me some of it. Or come to my place, pass by my place.
Looking at profitability, usually the returns are the same or even higher with biodynamics. Part of the reason is biodynamic food commands a premium. That premium can range anywhere from 10 to 100% more. When environmental impacts of biodynamic and organic farming systems are compared with conventional, the biodynamic and organic systems always come out on top. There is less erosion, less potential for groundwater contamination, less movement of nitrates down the soil profile, and no possibility of synthetic pesticide residues in crops.
The sustainability comes through organic farming. You don't have to buy anything. You can make it all yourself. I often say the wealth of India is the amount of biomass that the farmer can grow. Biomass meaning material that you can make compost from. And that includes cow dung, very many green trees with luxuriant green leaf which can be chopped up. That's your green, that's a protein aspect. And then you've got all the paddy straw. So you've got three basic ingredients, and it's all there. And the farmer can provide it all himself without having to buy anything.
Hello.
Look at this. Beautiful shot. Wow.
The reality is that there's no real comparison between conventional and biodynamic farming, because the biodynamic farmer actually nourishes his soil. He is the steward of his soil because he knows it's going to be needed for the next 100, 200, 300 years. And in doing biodynamics, that will happen. The chemical farmer, it's all gone within 10 years. You've got no soil. But the biodynamic farmer will have his soil forever. And that's what we've got to look at. We've got to save the world. We can't blow it away with chemicals.
The International Water Management Institute in Gujarat says India's green revolution is living on borrowed water and borrowed time.
This particular one farm south of India where they've got a salt problem. You know, there's just no biomass there at all. There's no humus in the soil. There's no absorption of the rain. The rain just runs straight off. There's no water in the underground. and they're still having to irrigate because they've got so much chemical. They've been putting so much chemical on the land since the Green Revolution to neutralise that and to grow the crops. They've over-irrigated, they've taken all the sweet water and all they've left is salty water. And so they're irrigating with salt water. We are actually in a pretty bad situation, and we've got to have water to go on living. We can't drink salty water because it makes you thirsty.
As the failure and true cost of chemical agriculture escalates, thousands of small farmers are turning to biodynamics.
Well, the water problem is actually finding water, the wastewater, which is mainly water from the washing the dishes, is just running away. And it's fairly pure because they don't use soap, they use wood ashes for cleaning the dishes. And so you've got a wood ash combination there, which is fine, and that can be saved and used regularly on the compost. That would be enough to keep all this compost we saw moist.
I have seen that the farmer growing with biodynamics, the water holding capacity has increased of the soil. Not only that, during heavy floods and heavy rainfall, very good vertical penetration is there.
The other good thing is that people are reporting that they're using up to 50% less water in biodynamic agriculture. So if you imagine a country like India where they use a lot of water in agriculture, using half of that, that's a huge saving.
Organic farming sustains in drought, but only I can say that organic farming and biodynamic farmers can sustain when there are no rains, no water irrigation facilities.
In the public perception of the West, India is an undeveloped country. Small family farms dominate the rural sector. Sustainable agriculture, farming that is not controlled by corporate agendas, is the key to a harmonious society. And there's nothing undeveloped about that.
Even if this person is doing BD compost, everybody will come and help him. Then they will complete this work, then they will go to another field. Then they will go to Sunil's field, then Anil's field. And collectively they are doing. And whatever the difficulties they are facing, they are overcoming these difficulties. Electricity, just they will have this idea. Labor problem, they will do themselves. And if there is a shortage of cow dung, one farmer will give to another farmer. Like this, they are helping and solving their problems. That is a great change which we are bringing in rural prosperity. Now, we are giving them another messages besides agriculture, that is health, that is about education, family planning. We are bringing all these things to bring an integrated, holistic rural prosperity.
Black sesame. And black sesame again.
Commonly known as peanuts in our country.
Peanuts.
The Patel farm is so productive, they process a range of fruits and legumes that are sold across India. In a globalized market, local agriculture that returns independence to farmers and enables direct contact between growers and consumers is a revolution. At the Mahatma Gandhi ashram in Ahmedabad, we are reminded of the essence of Gandhi's message: food sovereignty, the right of all people to define their own food and agriculture free of international market forces. In 1930, Gandhi led the legendary Salt March. It was an act of civil disobedience against British law that made it illegal to manufacture, collect, possess, or trade in salt.
We also want the similar independence where we have our own freedom to grow whatever we want and to eat whatever we want. We don't want any Monsanto or Syngenta to tell us what seed we grow, what crop we should harvest, and what food we eat.
Well, actually, what is one of the tragedies of the world is the fact that farmers are almost forced now to buy their seed from one company. The idea would be that one company, or Monsanto, would actually own those seeds and the farmers have to buy their seed from them. I just think it's morally wrong that somebody is actually able to do that. or trying to do it. No, nobody has a right to own seed. It belongs to farmers. It belongs to everybody. It belongs to the world.
The major campaign in India which is going on is promoting and encouraging the alternative forms of agriculture. Whether you call it organic farming, you call it biodynamic farming, you call it natural farming. These are basically non-toxic, non-chemical forms of farming where the farmers are practicing a farming which doesn't require any use of chemicals. But the second advantage is that they are not required to use Monsanto seeds. They are not required to use any hybrid seeds in these sort of alternative forms of farming.
The gene revolution is destroying the genetic base of our food supply. The Indian subcontinent once grew 30,000 varieties of rice. Today, there are no more than 15. The new varieties are environmentally unsustainable and nutritionally deficient. With soils destroyed by Green Revolution chemistry and irrigation now using 2/3 of all sweet water, a genetic quick fix is being promoted to rescue failing crops and ruined soils.
Late Wednesday, in his first trip to the country, he was greeted...
In despair, 150,000 Indian farmers have killed themselves since 1993. Some drink their pesticides, while others burn, hang, or drown themselves.
And we have stories in the corporate press in India which are unbelievable.
In March 2006, Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and U.S. President George W. Bush signed an agreement that could bring Indian agriculture under the control of multinational corporations.
There was no other way but this.
In New Delhi alone, tens of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets.
Under the guise of patent rights and seed ownership, this agreement will impose a new kind of serfdom on the rural people of India.
Tens of thousands of farmers have committed suicide.
With man only a step ahead of his enemy, new weapons are being devised in the research laboratories. Thousands of new compounds and control techniques are being developed and put through countless tests. Is there a potential hazard to man and animals? It takes years of research until a chemical meets rigid requirements of safety as well as effectiveness. Safety. Safety to man, to animals, to crops, to wildlife, to fish, to beneficial insects, to our total environment.
Nature does not wear a rubber suit and a gas mask. Neither do most Indian farmers. And all the protection in the world becomes irrelevant when the food we eat is poisoned. This film, more than half a century old, is strikingly modern in its belief in the need to subjugate nature to ensure human survival. Connect the agribusiness dots. Chemical farming demands expensive, escalating inputs. Promised benefits do not materialize. Families fall into the type of poverty that requires international aid, often in the form of the very grains and legumes they once grew successfully. Viewed cynically, it could be seen as the perfect business model. Build a market by creating a need that did not exist, and then expand that market until it wraps an entire nation in dependency.
As this air moved past, it made a sound. It's kind of ooh, like sort of tone. And they knew this, of course, and so I suppose they knew how to build the right sort of sound, forms, you know, to get those sounds. It's quite fascinating, really, but it happens all over. Wherever I go, I just look for this.
BioRe stands for organic and biodynamic farming. BioRay stands for transparency, stands for long-term partnership, long-term commitment. We don't just treat our farmers as suppliers or as just sources of production. And one of the main tasks that we have here is to be able to make the soils of the farmers healthy so that they can farm their lands for a long period of time.
Interesting this time, once you've been doing for half an hour, the viscosity of the water changes. It forms a vortex very quickly. In fact, some of our students have done sort of counted the number of revolutions at the beginning of the stirring to get the vortex, and then count the number of revolutions at the end of the hour, and they find it's about half the number. It's been quite incredible, yeah. The water becomes kind of viscous, you know, it's amazing.
Well, BioRay, I think, is the most wonderful example of a cooperative working together with farmers and, you might say, management.
Okay, your turn.
And in this case, they're growing cotton. I think there's up to 4,000 farmers using biodynamic agriculture to actually produce high-quality cotton. Only small farms, but 3 acres up to 10 acres, and they are developing biodynamic techniques. And in this way, you've got sustainable farms, but you're also growing a product that is a joy to wear, and there's no chemicals in that product, and it's healthy to wear. And for me, I think it's the most wonderful corporate activity I know.
At the organizational level, the people that we are connected with, the whole BioRay chain really stands for a high degree of moral, social, ethical and environment responsibility, which we are trying to fulfill in our day-to-day work with the farmers, with the land.
Some people are getting too much benefits, too many benefits out of the opening up of markets. And there are people who are working very hard at a very basic level, who are somehow being left out. They are being ignored. They are not being able to get the actual benefits of globalization. We here are trying to bring things back to the roots, trying to bring benefits back to the people who are actually doing major part of the producing of the product.
The BioRay model, I would say, is kind of an alternative globalization where we are linking farmers to the consumers by the textile chain. And in a way, we are also satisfying the consumer that, look, by buying this product or by using this product, you are supporting communities or you're supporting groups of farmers either to change or to improve their livelihood, or you're in a way even helping to elevate poverty in a sense. I think Peter has made a huge difference to the biodynamic movement in India, because out of his commitment, out of his love, out of his zeal, his zest, his understanding, I think he has infused a lot of people who have come in contact with him.
In biodynamics, the flow of energy is reversed. It is a profound local alternative to the corporate model of globalization that is incapable of addressing the human need we all share for self-realization and self-determination. My notion of democracy is that under it, the weakest should have the same opportunity as the strongest. No country in the world today shows any but patronizing regard for the weak. Western democracy as it functions today.
Steiner points out that the food actually helps you make moral decisions or moral thoughts. It's not just stuff to fill your stomach, it actually gives you a real quality of thought, and you realise that this is what the world is needing. It really is needing, and you see our leaders of countries, it's horrible what happens and the things that come to the surface, and you know jolly well it's because they're not thinking properly. And so Steiner points out that how important to have spiritual thoughts. It doesn't mean to say that you're holier than I and so on. But it's actually a world thought, a heart thought, respect and concern for other human beings. I think this relates to a respect for the land. It comes out of that.
That looks nice. Yep.
No, you'll be giving to other farmers.
Oh, you give it to other farmers?
The farmer.
Hello, how are you? Greetings, sir. Aha, 30 kg. 50 kg, okay. It's not bad, is it? That's quite nice. Yeah, it's good. Well done.
Peter began his Indian odyssey in the city of Indore in Madhya Pradesh. Back then, the university supported his work. The professors of soil and agriculture that joined him in the beginning have now retired.
I've met so many wonderful, wonderful Indian farmers. I mean, wonderful people. You've met some of them. There's a lot more that you haven't met. And they're so compassionate, so appreciative, actually, of this knowledge.
And the difference in the crop from the neighbours is amazing.
I believe that India is the hope of the world, and that's basically why I've thrown my hat in the ring in India, because I realise this is one country where biodynamic agriculture can take on, and the Indian folk are the sort of kind of born teachers, and they can move out, and they can go into, right throughout India, they can go to neighbouring countries where a white face isn't appreciated, but the Indian face would be, and they can tell other countries what biodynamic agriculture is all about. I just feel there's a huge, huge possibility there.
At the end of our journey, we return to Peter's first cowpat pit at the University of Indore. As most of the departments once run by the professors are now funded and controlled by agribusiness, Peter's work with individual farmers becomes increasingly vital.
It was so hard. I didn't realise that it was so hard. They had to dig the holes with a crowbar. It was bright yellow. I thought, oh my God, we can't make 500 here. It's not going to work, you know. This bright man here said, you know why, Peter? We didn't put any water on it. We didn't shelter it. We didn't shade it. We'll do it again. And so we did the following October, and it turned out perfectly.
Sometimes I think, well, it's so easy. Please wake up, people. Please wake up. You know? It's just so simple. There's no big deal. You know? You don't have to be a PhD and all sorts of things. You can just be a Kiwi farmer and do it.
Peter and Rachel now live at the Bhaktivedanta Academy for Sustainable Integrated Living near Mysore on the banks of the Kaveri River. Peter still travels by train throughout India and will continue teaching for the remainder of his days.
Hallelujah.